What is up, family? Super excited to have you here at this channel. Again, where I'm committed to establishing a vision for masculinity, pulling from fields of psychology, philosophy, history, and theology. And so if this is your first time here, hey, listen, go and click that like button, go and click that subscribe button, because I want you to be able to get more information, content, education like this. I today have got something that it's pretty passionate on my heart. It's just something that I feel like needs to be talked about. But the truth is that this movement needs to be addressed 100% because I have had it with this particular movement and it needs to be addressed. The truth is the new age is absolutely feminizing the men of today. I will say that again. I will repeat myself again. The new age movement 100% is responsible absolutely to the contribution of the destruction of masculinity in our society today. Now, you may be wondering where are these claims coming from? Are they baseless and so on and so forth? You may be into the new age yourself. Listen, I want to let you know that realistically, I've read a lot of the books. I've read Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. I've read The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murray. I've read Evolve Your Brain by Joe Dispenza and all these other individuals and influencers in the new age space. I'm very aware of that space. I understand the law of attraction and all of these particular laws that these guys believe. Not all of them necessarily, but I'm familiar enough. I live in Austin, where it is probably what you would say it's a massive new age capital. There's a lot of that kind of philosophy going on around here. So I'm fairly aware in terms of the beliefs and the typical value systems that new age men and women typically have. And it needs to be addressed because fundamentally it is destroying men. It is destroying the society today. It is destroying men today, and it needs to be attacked and destroyed. And there's there's lots of reasons why, but there's fundamentally three aspects of what I believe to be why New Age deconstructs masculinity, why New Age is also a part of the deconstruction of Christianity. A lot of the times you see individuals when they deconstruct their faith, it's because there was a synthesis and a syncretism that in many ways the early church confronted and rebuked oftentimes, because that syncretism, light, what does light have to do with darkness? When you try to synchronize and syncretize these particular belief systems, it just does not work. And it ends in Christian deconstruction, where you see deconstructing Christians. They typically first started adopting very new age philosophy and thought, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of reasons why, but three more in particular that I want to address that I believe is the reason why New Age is destroying masculinity and Christianity. Number one, first and foremost, is the overt philosophy of moral relativity that exists among New Age groups and people and so on and so forth. So if you understand what moral relativity is, fundamentally it's the belief that moral values are predicated on, they're just social constructs. They're predicated on the observer and the individual. It's kind of the typical what's true for you is true for you and what's true for me is true for me. You do you and I do me kind of mindset and mentality. And so these individuals very much have a moral relativistic paradigm. They don't necessarily perceive anything to be true. Fundamentally, they just simply pull from different religions and thoughts and pretty much go on. They're very Hindu-like in that aspect, and the fact that, we're all touching the same thing. We're all believing the same thing. We're all worshiping the same thing. We're all oneness. It's very animistic in the aspect of where we are all connected, we are all one. Again, very animism, very much that aspect of philosophy along with Hinduism. And so you're getting a lot of this moral relativism, which doesn't make any sense because fundamentally there are truths that cannot be syncretized. You cannot have say 2 + 2 is 4 on one hand and 2 + 2 is 5 on the other hand, and they're both true. That is not mathematical accuracy. In this, you cannot have an orange that's also a pear, that's also a pineapple. An orange is an orange. Fundamentally, these basic laws exist within our universe. there is objective truth that exists within the universe, and the idea that that there is no fundamental moral objective ground is absolutely incorrect. It is not true, and it leads men down into effeminacy. Now, how is that the case? Well, it's my second point of why New Age, the deeper layer behind moral relativity, which is the structurelessness of New Age-ism and the New Age movement. Now, what do I mean about structurelessness? Fundamentally, the bedrock, there's a bedrock that moral relativity has to have, and that bedrock is that of Jordan Peterson kind of has a very Taoism in terms of yin and yang, order and chaos that we've seen in his Rules for Life book. And this is very much true. You also see this in the Genesis account, the symbology of there is the darkness covering the earth and the spirit which is light, and the light of God coming in. So we see the elements of yin and yang and darkness and light also within the Bible as well. But the problem is that when you have too much of one thing, you have chaos. And the problem is that they are entirely structureless. Moral relativity is a structureless it's perfect fluidity. Everything is fluid. You are your own creator. You are God. You create your own reality. Nothing is set in stone outside of your creation. You are the observer and therefore the God who can create whatever it is that you want. And because that is how they perceive things, and that is how they see things, fundamentally, you're going to have it to where that fluidity, that sort of mysticism, which there is Christian mysticism, there is the aspect of the Spirit of God and the movement of the Holy Spirit that exists. So Christian monks obviously conveyed, and we see that within church history, the Christian mystics who were truly connected in communion with God. But this is a form of esotericism that fundamentally causes the man to be without structure. And if you understand symbology and archetype, you understand that the feminine is represented in the kind of artistry and creativity, and the masculine is very much order and structure. So if you think of the kind of balances of yin and yang, or the balances of masculine roles and feminine roles, we understand that fluidity is actually more of a feminine attribute and a feminine trait and quality. And what ends up happening is that when you have men adopting kind of this hyper fluidity, that there are no fundamental bedrock values and truths that unite us all, that are not determined whether you believe it or I believe it, but they just simply are self-evident. When these particular things are come into question and are scrutinized, and everything fundamentally is fluid, then you end up having a problem where you have very emasculated men who there can be no definition of things. There can be no fundamental truth of thing. Everything is just your truth and my truth, and that's simply what it is. And so when you target and destroy the bedrock of the masculine spirit, which is representative and symbolized in order and structure, which is why women love men who are structured, diligent, disciplined. It creates safety within the feminine. Fundamentally, an evidence or sort of proof that masculinity is representative in the nature of structure. When you have this structurelessness that exists within, that is very preeminent in and dominant in New Age thinking, you end up causing men to abandon their innate instincts to be and have structure. Values provide a sense of structure. Principles and ethics provide a sense of structure. These universal truths provide structure. And when there is no structure, we are left to fleeting hedonism and effeminate, non-committal lifestyle, which also is why a lot of New Age men typically are very polyamorous. They love Burning Man. They love all this stuff because there's no set of structure. There is no intrinsic values that they are what they are. And no matter, like I said, whether you agree with it or not, it does not matter. 2 + 2 is 4, will always be 4, whether you enjoy that particular belief or not, or like it or not. It simply is what it is. And so that destruction of structure, very much so, is the destruction of manhood. And then lastly, which fundamentally, this is why they are very against and antagonize narrow-mindedness. You oftentimes see this kind of antagonism towards being narrow-minded. You need to be more open-minded, simply because, again, that is the nature of fluidity, this very relativistic, fluid psyche and disposition that they have, usually that they very much propagate within the language of their culture and their people. Very much so something that they prioritize and very much effeminizes men. Then lastly, again, these are not the only things, guys, that fundamentally are why I believe New Age emasculates men, but I think these are the top 3, is the depersonalization of God. The depersonalization of God is very much real within the sort of, and I would say it's more of the anti-authority kind of disposition and sentiment that exists within New Age. You see it very much propagated throughout their system of thought. This is why they are against any one religion having a core truth or institution or whatever it may be, because they're fundamentally actually just against authority. A lot of these people probably have father wounds and father traumas with their father or whatever it may be. And that being the case, it's a projection. These wounds and traumas are a projection, and therefore they antagonize narrow-mindedness, or which is pretty much just having values and truths and all this stuff that's narrow-minded. And so it causes them to depersonalize God. Now, what is the depersonalization of God? Well, I believe the kind of triumphant nature of Christianity is the fact that God is not just a spirit being, an energy, or a force, which is very much probably the universe being a sort of force that is God, that makes us all God, that we are all connected, and so on and so forth. We are all energy, we are all frequency, all language that the New Age would adopt and pretty much have as a part of their kind of cult-like language. The reality of the fact of the matter is that if God is depersonalized, then God is de-authoritized, so to speak, meaning that God no longer has personhood, and therefore God is not someone who is a person or has personhood that sets standards and rules and principles. God is not a father or as in a personhood. He's more of an energy that we get to use and sort of a chakra or a frequency that maybe we interact with to some degree, or that we use, or that we ask for certain requests from, and command at every beck and call that our dream and desire be manifested at our own whim. It's fundamentally witchcraft and energetic manipulation. That's fundamentally what this stuff is. And again, it comes from a anti-authority sentiment, much of which due to the fact that many of these people are fatherless. And so realistically, I believe all of these kind of attributes of New Age or New Age philosophy are in fact part of the reason the reason why they're contributing to the emasculation of men. So I would encourage any man, if you are interested in New Age philosophy, go the other way, because it's not at all what you are looking for. You will castrate yourself spiritually and emotionally by entering into this very much religion, which they would say spiritual, not religious, but they are religious, and they have their own Eucharist. And to finalize this video, their Eucharist, their communion is not bread or wine. Their Eucharist, their church is Burning Man. Again, they're just as much of a religion as their purported anti-religious sentiment. They have rituals, they have structure, they have a structure like a sort of church. It would be ceremonies, Peruvian ceremonies, Burning Man, so on and so forth. And they have a Eucharist, and that Eucharist is plant medicine. And it's really interesting too. I find it very interesting with with the fact that they have LSD and plant medicines and ayahuasca and all this stuff, is it's been actually purported in studies that plant medicines are very much contributing to a massive increase of the personality trait openness. So if we understand that, I think the big 5 or big 6, I can't remember off the top of my mind, but neuroticism, agreeableness, assertiveness, openness, and conscientiousness, I believe, are the 5. You see a massive increase, and from my understanding in terms of the studies, that you see a huge surge of openness in individuals who do plant medicines and psychedelics. Well, it's interesting that a lot of these individuals end up going to polyamory and homosexuality. They had conservative views before. A lot of the times, a lot of their stories, they had conservative views and values and believed in the truth, and then traded truth off for many truths or all true, and they become more open. It is their Eucharistic ceremony. It's funny too, they use very religious things like ceremony and religious language like ceremony. Fundamentally, plant medicine is their sacrament. And so I find it also very interesting that MK Ultra, which is very much a validated, proven, not conspiratorial, it is literally on the CIA website in terms of the mind control suggestive experiments that the CIA had conducted in back in the day. I don't remember exactly the time frame. Probably, I don't know. I can get that for you guys. I think in the 50s. I find it just very interesting and ironic that the same substances that are the sacraments of this particular movement and this particular people group is the same exact medicine and or drugs that were used by the CIA to experiment, like using LSD, hallucinogenic, that were a means to open up people to suggestions and beliefs and ideas, and fundamentally as a means for mind control. And so I find that very ironic and interesting, and I don't find that to be coincidental that the same drugs that the CIA used as valid means to control and suggest to individuals, i.e. LSD and other hallucinogenic psychedelics, are the same substances that are used as a very ceremonial, religious, Eucharistic sacrament of the New Age movement. I don't find that to be coincidental. And so, again, guys, to close this all off, don't doubt. Like, the New Age it's not going to have anything for you. It's fundamentally going to castrate you, and you're going to end off in a very hedonistic, pleasure-filled, non-missional centered man. You're not going to have a mission. You're just going to live in hedonism, and you're going to tell yourself you're in an altered states of consciousness and you're experiencing God, when reality you're just getting a dopamine kick and a dopamine high, and fundamentally opening yourself up to suggestions, to certain ideas that are emasculating you because they're destroying every bedrock of structure, which is structure innately is a masculine trait. So it has nothing for you. Again, if you're in the movement now, turn away. I promise you, God has something better. He will make you into the man that you were meant to be. Love you guys. Again, click like, share, and if you are not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next series of videos. Love you guys. Cheers.